Imagine you are an 18-year-old girl. You're out scavenging for recyclable cans in the freezing high desert of Central Oregon.
Oh, that biting wind. Just brutal.
Right. The wind is just biting. You're wearing these baggy sweatpants, held up by literally nothing more than a rusted safety pin.
And your boots have holes in them.
Exactly. You are just trying to scrape together enough loose change to afford a single meal. So you wander off the pavement into this burned-out patch of woods. It's like an old local party spot, hoping you'll find some discarded beer cans.
Just a completely desolate place.
Yeah. But instead, lying face down in the dirt and the frost, you stumble upon a naked, dead man.
It is a completely shattering moment. I mean, the ultimate collision of a vulnerable, deeply isolated life with just a sudden, brutal reality.
It really is.
It rips away whatever small sense of safety that environment previously held for her.
And it is the perfect, chilling opening to our focus today. We are doing a deep dive into the gripping narrative of Kendra Elliot's thriller, No One Knew.
Such a complex book.
It is. We've got this massive stack of detailed excerpts right here. I mean, we are looking at dense crime scene reports, intercepted FBI domestic terrorism chatter, and some incredibly dark family secrets.
The documents are intense.
They really are. And the mission of this deep dive is to unpack this whole complex web of murder and conspiracy. We want to help you see how seemingly isolated, random crimes scattered across a map are actually, carefully placed pieces of a terrifying, unified puzzle. Okay, let's unpack this.
This story demands to be unpacked because it operates on so many different levels. It is far more than a standard procedural whodunit.
Oh, totally.
It's actually a masterclass in how macro-level political extremism, the kind of ideological warfare you usually only read about in national security briefs, how that can quietly and violently infect micro-level rural communities.
Right, it brings it right to your front door.
Exactly. It shows the mechanics of how global paranoia trickles all the way down to a frozen dirt road in the middle of nowhere.
And we really start with the physical evidence, the bodies themselves. Because almost simultaneously, the narrative hits us with these two starkly different discoveries that they shouldn't logically connect.
They seem miles apart, conceptually.
Right. On one hand, you have Emma Chambers, that 18-year-old girl scavenging in the woods.
Such a tragic figure.
She is incredibly vulnerable. She's living in crushing poverty. She's actively hiding from an abusive father who's been mysteriously missing for 4 months.
Right.
And she finds this dead man.
Face down in the frost.
Yeah. He's completely nude. He's been shot squarely in the forehead. And he has this very distinct, elaborate chest tattoo.
The tree tattoo, right?
Yeah, it looks like a thin tree or maybe a flower towering over a brick wall. It's this intensely silent, hidden tragedy tucked away from the eyes of the world.
And the isolation of that crime scene is absolutely deliberate. The perpetrator chose a location where a body could conceivably rot for years without a single soul stumbling across it.
Unless a desperate teenager is looking for aluminum cans. But then, boom. The narrative cuts to the exact opposite environment.
The courthouse.
Yes, a massive fiery explosion at the Deschutes County Courthouse in Bend. Judge Holtz's Mercedes is blown to absolute pieces in the parking lot.
The scale of it is shocking.
It really is. The concussive force is so strong that a tourist across the street literally has a heart attack on the sidewalk from the shock of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is as loud, destructive, and public as you can possibly get in a civic center.
Two completely different worlds. You have the quiet, desolate woods where secrets are buried, and then the bustling, secure center of local government where a statement is being broadcasted at maximum volume.
See, I have to pause on the mechanics of this courthouse bombing, though.
Okay, what's catching you?
Blowing up a car in an empty parking lot when the target, Judge Holtz, is already safely walking into the building. It feels, fundamentally counterproductive if the goal is an assassination.
Right, it doesn't make sense as a hit.
Exactly. Were these bombers just trying to send a loud, intimidating message to the judicial system, or they completely botched the timing of the detonation?
Well, the sources make it clear they didn't botch the timing at all. The assassination of the judge was never the objective.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The vehicle itself was merely a container for the real message. When the crime scene technicians finally extinguish the flames and pry open the smoking, ruined chassis of the Mercedes, they find something the judge had absolutely no idea was in his vehicle.
Oh, man.
The trunk is popped open, and inside is an adult male body, stripped, completely nude, ankles bound, hands tied tightly behind his back.
And bearing a single gunshot wound right to the forehead. with no exit wound.
Exactly.
Which is the exact same highly specific method of execution as the man Emma found freezing in the woods.
That is the undeniable signature connecting these two disparate worlds. Furthermore, the forensic anomalies discovered during the autopsies are what turned this from a local homicide into a sprawling conspiracy.
Yeah, the autopsy report is wild.
It really is. When the medical examiner, Dr. Natasha Lockhart, examines both bodies, she immediately notes that the livor mortis, the lividity patterns indicating how the blood settled after death, completely contradicts their physical positions at the crime scenes.
Which scientifically proves both men were executed somewhere else entirely.
Right.
They were held in a specific position for several hours after death, and then deliberately transported to these highly symbolic locations. The sheer logistics of that are staggering.
It takes a lot of effort to move a body.
Think about the physical effort and the chilling calmness required to strip a human being, carry their dead weight, load them into a vehicle, and then manage to break into a judge's car in a public area just to stuff a body in the trunk. It requires an alarming level of organization.
It requires a network. This is a calculated distraction and a show of force, which brings us to the underlying cause of this violence. This was a geopolitical statement tied directly to domestic terrorism. We are introduced to two FBI special agents, Max Rhodes and Mercy Kilpatrick, who have intercepted a piece of mail referencing something called the Boogaloo movement.
Yeah, the Boogaloo Intercept.
And this intercept hints at a large-scale terrorism event currently brewing in Central Oregon.
The sources dive deep into this Boogaloo concept, and we need to clarify how it operates because it totally defies the traditional structure of a terror cell.
It's not what people usually picture.
No, it's not an organized army with a clear chain of command or some charismatic leader giving orders from a bunker.
What's fascinating here is the sheer unpredictability of the movement. It is a highly decentralized fringe subculture that essentially anticipates or actively tries to provoke a second U.S. Civil War.
And it's so muddy politically.
Very much so. The critical factor making them so dangerous to law enforcement is their complete lack of a unified ideology. The sources explicitly note that while some adherents espouse white supremacy, others have actively marched alongside racial justice protesters or anti-police brutality movements.
Just to cause chaos.
Yes, they use these larger social protests as a camouflage for their own violent agendas. We're just looking at what the texts outline here. It's all about exploiting existing tension.
Makes me think of an open source software project.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Because in traditional terrorism, you have a rigid corporate structure where you take orders from a boss. This decentralized movement is like malicious open source code. Anyone, anywhere, can download the core ideology, modify it to fit their own personal grievances or political leanings, and execute a localized attack without ever needing permission from a centralized headquarters.
That's spot on.
It's an infection of an idea rather than a physical army you can easily track.
And the common denominator isn't politics, it's an attraction to accelerationism. They want to accelerate the collapse of society by inserting themselves into areas of high tension and exploiting that friction. They are looking for the structural weaknesses in a community and applying pressure until it snaps.
So, to find the source of this open source terror, Agent Mercy Kilpatrick taps her underworld informants. And we meet these two sisters, Corey and Rachel.
The survivors from America's Preserve.
Right. They survived this brutal, dictatorial militia compound. They managed to escape that life, but they still maintain deep ties to the anti-government underworld.
Rachel, in particular, is unabashed about navigating this dangerous subculture. She uses sex to extract information and money from men she knows are involved in illicit activities. And she reveals to the agents that she spent the afternoon at a dingy local motel with a mysterious man who called himself Bill.
And the details of this encounter are terrifying when you realize who Bill likely is.
Oh, absolutely.
He drove a red Jeep Cherokee, paid for the room in cash, and casually handed Rachel $200. But the alarming part is the conversation. While they were in room 12, Bill was watching the news coverage of the courthouse car bomb and laughing.
Just laughing at the destruction.
Yeah. He bragged to Rachel that the explosion was just a small test. A test to make people, and I quote from the text here, rise and fight back.
A small test that utilized a murdered human being as a theatrical prop. And when Rachel pushed back, pointing out that blowing up public buildings isn't a joke, the atmosphere instantly shifted.
He turned on her fast.
Bill hit her, splitting her lip, demonstrating the underlying volatility of the people she thought she was manipulating.
Which sets up this incredibly tense climax to the investigation's first major lead, Agent Max Rhodes realizes that Bill might have left Trey's DNA on a beer can he was drinking from in Rachel's motel room.
Right, physical evidence.
So Max rushes over to the motel to collect it before housekeeping clears the room. But when the snarky teenager at the front desk finally unlocks the door to room 12, when they open that door, Rachel is dead on the floor.
Shot squarely in the head.
Yep.
3 bodies, 1 distinct signature. The violence has officially cascaded outward from the initial victims to the informants. Rachel operated under the assumption that she could outsmart the danger, that she could play these dangerous men for cash and walk away, and that miscalculation cost her everything.
And because Rachel was murdered for knowing too much, the crosshairs instantly shift to the only other civilian in this entire narrative who has any connection to these bodies. Emma Chambers.
The girl from the woods?
Right. The narrative abruptly thrusts us from Rachel's tragic failure to survive straight into Emma's desperate fight to stay alive.
The contrast in how these 2 women handled danger is deeply rooted in their psychology. Rachel leaned into the threat, believing she had agency within that chaotic underworld. Emma's entire existence has been conditioned by her abusive father's unpredictable cruelty.
She's used to hiding.
Her psychological baseline is hypervigilance. She doesn't try to manipulate the system. She constantly scans her environment for the safest exit route.
And that deeply ingrained hypervigilance is literally the only thing that saves her life. Picture the sensory details of this scene. It's the middle of the night at Emma's dilapidated, freezing trailer. The power is completely out, and out of the darkness, she hears a terrifying, aggressive howl from Cornbread.
Cornbread being the fluffy, stray orange cat she's been slowly taming.
Yeah, by leaving out bowls of Kraft mac and cheese.
It is a profound, humanizing detail amidst the bleakness of her survival.
It really is. But that cat's warning howl jolts her awake. She creeps to her father's bedroom window and peers out into the dark. She sees the beams of 2 flashlights sweeping across her yard, wielded by men creeping up to her porch.
Terrifying.
And Emma knows instantly not to engage. She doesn't scream, she doesn't ask who is there. She grabs a handgun, shoves a plastic bag of her father's hidden cash into her backpack, and drops silently out of the screenless window into the freezing dirt, just as the men physically breach the front door.
Just in the nick of time. And as she cowers in the freezing brush outside, she listens to them tear apart her home. One intruder asks what they should do with her if they find her, and the other explicitly replies they need the girl because they were told to get her.
So it's not random.
No, this shatters any illusion of a random rural break-in. This was a targeted abduction ordered by someone higher up the chain of command within this terror cell.
The violation of that space is absolute. And the most unsettling detail happens when Emma finally dares to return to the ruined trailer the next day. The heavily armed intruders didn't just smash her belongings, they stole a package of bakery chocolate chip cookies she had hidden in the kitchen.
Her cookies.
It was her absolute only luxury in the world. The casual cruelty of stealing the starving girl's cookies highlights the complete lack of empathy these operatives possess.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Emma's ordeal illuminates the profound, life-saving role of community. Consider Rachel's final moments. She was isolated in a dingy motel, surrounded by transient neighbors who literally shut their doors and turned up the volume on their televisions to ignore the sounds of a struggle.
They just tuned it out.
She had no safety net, and she was executed.
Meanwhile, Emma lives miles away from civilization, completely off the grid, yet she survives specifically because of the community that refuses to let her slip through the cracks.
She is saved by people who aggressively force their protection and charity upon her. You have Ben Cooley, the veteran town cop, who recognizes the signs of starvation and quietly alerts the town's informal support network.
Right.
You have Ina Smythe, a fierce, cane-wielding matriarch who basically breaks into Emma's house to deliver heavy boxes of groceries and stack firewood.
She outright refuses to take no for an answer.
Exactly. And then you have Uncle Tommy.
Uncle Tommy is the ultimate rural safety net. Emma runs to his farm in the middle of the night after the break-in. The next morning, this crusty, no-nonsense old man cooks her 10 eggs fried in an obscene amount of butter, hands her half a loaf of toast, and sits in his armchair vowing to protect her with his double-barrel shotgun across his lap.
It's quite an image.
It makes you pause and reflect on your own environment. Who is your safety net? When the proverbial monsters come to your door in the dead of night, who is the Uncle Tommy or the Ina Smythe that you can run to for absolute, unquestioning shelter?
It is a beautiful testament to the solidarity found in rural communities. However, the psychological vulnerability Emma experiences doesn't solely apply to the victims in this narrative. It acts as a mirror, reflecting the unspoken, carefully hidden traumas carried by the investigators trying to save her.
The agents aren't immune.
Not at all. The physical vulnerability of the women being hunted parallels the deep psychological vulnerability of the FBI agents and police detectives leading the charge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We are culturally conditioned to view FBI agents and seasoned detectives as these bulletproof, stoic figures who leave their personal baggage at the door.
Right, the classic hardened cop trope.
Exactly. But Agent Max Rhodes is dragging a massive, dark family history into this investigation. When he was 18, he severely beat up his abusive stepfather, Oscar, in a desperate attempt to protect his family. But his mother turned around and sided with the abuser, blaming Max for the violence.
A terrible betrayal.
Yeah. As a result, Max is completely estranged from his mother and his younger sisters, Amber and Brittany.
And the individuals orchestrating this terror cell seem to possess an unnerving awareness of that specific, deeply buried psychological wound. Max's sister Kira, the only family member he still maintains a close relationship with, suddenly receives a chilling delivery of white funeral roses.
Just awful.
The attached note reads, "Congratulations on having a murderer for a brother."
I have to challenge the premise of this harassment, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Is this sender just someone from Max's distant past who holds a grudge and chose a terrible time to surface? Or is the terror cell actively weaponizing the FBI agent's history to derail his focus on the 3 dead bodies?
It's a huge question.
Because if it's the latter, that implies a terrifying level of access. Does this militia have a mole pulling classified FBI background checks? Or is Max's estranged family somehow organically embedded in this anti-government underworld?
That is the critical operational question facing the Bureau. If it is the terror cell, it points to a highly sophisticated intelligence-gathering capability. It suggests the perpetrators aren't just angry men doing drills in the woods. They have access to deeply personal, potentially classified backgrounds.
They know exactly where to hit him.
They are mining the investigators' personal lives for leverage, utilizing psychological warfare to blind the agents with their own trauma.
And Max certainly isn't the only one compromised by his past. Detective Noelle Marshall, who is leading the county side of the investigation, is a wealthy widow who still suffers from sudden memory loss and debilitating head pain from a past shooting that killed her husband.
Right, she carries immense physical and emotional scars.
She lives in this gorgeous, starkly minimalist house, secured behind a massive iron gate, yet she keeps multiple loaded handguns stashed in different drawers in every room just to feel a baseline level of safety.
The sources mentioned she even confessed this to her therapist, worried she was deteriorating into a paranoid fanatic. Her therapist validated the behavior, explaining that for a highly trained professional who has survived extreme violence, having those weapons within arm's reach acts as a necessary security blanket to manage her trauma.
Trauma truly is the equalizer in this deep dive. Emma's trauma from her father made her hyper-vigilant enough to dive out a window and survive an abduction squad. Noelle's trauma from the shooting makes her deeply empathetic to victims, but fiercely, physically guarded within her own fortress.
And Max.
Yeah, Max's trauma from a fractured family makes him desperate to fix broken situations, a vulnerability the killers are actively exploiting to break his focus. The villains are using psychological warfare just as effectively as they're using C4 and blasting caps.
It's a multi-front war.
It really is. Let's just step back and look at the whole terrifying board we've uncovered today. We have 3 bodies, John Doe 1 in the woods, John Doe 2 in the trunk of a judge's car, and Rachel Johnson in a dingy motel, all executed with a single, precise shot to the head.
The signature is undeniable.
We have a radical, decentralized domestic terror plot that uses a massive courthouse car bomb simply as a small test for a larger conflict. And caught in the absolute center of this crossfire is an innocent 18-year-old girl on the run, guarded by nothing more than an old man with a shotgun and a fiercely loyal stray cat. So what does this all mean?
It forces us to reconsider the mechanics of modern extremism. We spend so much time analyzing the logistics of these terror cells, how they communicate, how they build their explosives, how they recruit, but consider the unintended apparatus that assists them.
What do you mean?
What if these decentralized groups don't even need a massive organized recruitment network because our own 24-hour news cycle and social media algorithms are doing the heavy lifting for them? Every time a small test like a courthouse bombing gets looped endlessly on national television, the media inadvertently acts as the public relations wing for the terror cell.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
They don't need a unified ideology. If the constant broadcast of their chaos is enough to inspire the next isolated angry person to download the blueprint and act on it, the real bomb isn't the one in the courthouse parking lot. It's the paranoia planted in the minds of everyone who watches it burn.
Wow. The idea that we are unwittingly distributing their source code every time we tune in, that is a heavy, vital thought to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that perspective with you today as you look at the world. Remember to stay curious, stay safe, and if you're ever walking near the high desert woods, always pay attention to the shadows.